We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. OMG in the morning.
Careful. You get called out in a press conference.
Nice, very nice.
Careful, buddy. Don't do that. Let's good morning, good evening, good afternoon to our viewers on IKTV. Thanks for joining us. We're happy to have you always. Yeah. Thank you for being with us. Let's go to the lines. Good morning.
Morning, Batman, ding, ding.
Good morning.
And to Baby Doll and to Diego.
Yes.
Do you think the Prime Minister would want to lose his government or lose power in this country?
But why does that matter now? You heard what the doctor said in that voice note just now that we just played. It don't care how much money you have. It don't care what your color is. It don't care your political party. It don't care about you drop out. Okay, David can call back. I guess you. Oh boy, he dropped out just now. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. But you can call back. Okay, let's see if this is him calling back. Good morning.
Good morning, Bing.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Diego.
Yeah.
How are you? Bing, if we are concerned citizens and concerned about our people, we'll do the right thing. We know what is happening if you have gatherings and so forth with people, and therefore we should take precautions measures. Let's not wait until it's too late. Let's do things what is right. And I like how you rocking back and listening, And I listened some time ago and hear you have been called some kind of names because you said something. Don't bother with them, I like to listen to you when you talk because you just call an apple and a spade a spade. You understand? And people have to start to take measures now. We don't wait until it's done. I just call another station and ask if you are supposed to have this function for carnival, would you put it off? He's telling me he would do what the health people say. I said, if the health people tell you go ahead and have this carnival thing, you would do it? Yes, he would do it. So he don't concern about our citizens. He only concerned about pulling his pockets and making money, not taking care of our country and our people. We need to do that, take care of our people, and let us do the right thing first. We're looking at CNN and all those places and see the big countries closing down. We listen to what the professional health people who doing all these jobs, tests and all these things out there saying, and we're supposed to follow from there. You understand? And I think if we start doing that and putting things in place and measures, we would reach a long way and we will help our people here in St. Vincent before we start balling out. Have a good day.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you. I want to play this again that we played earlier on this morning. This happened yesterday in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A confrontation between the mayor. Before I do it, good morning. Let me go back to the lines. Good morning.
Morning, guys.
Good morning.
What I'm saying is not the best thing if all the rest countries closing their borders. If we do like them, close the borders and try to combat this thing so that when they open, everybody open together and, things back to normal. Now when they close, we stay open, and then when they trying to open up, now we got a lockdown. Nonsense.
All right. Thank you. It's not me saying that. The people are talking, not me. So they can't cuss me now. Not me. Leave me alone. It's not me talking now, okay? Leave me alone. Let me remind you again what took place yesterday in Fort Lauderdale. Listen
cut off people's utilities this week and made them pay what could have been their last check to us to turn their lights on in the global health pandemic. But you don't care about that. You didn't want to meet.
The meeting.
You came up with new rules at the beginning of the meeting, and then you didn't even want to follow the rules that you came up with.
And you took advantage.
This is a banana republic is what you're turning this place into with your so-called leaders. We cut off people's utilities this week and made them pay what could have been their last check to us to turn their lights on in the global health pandemic. But you don't care about that, and you didn't want to meet. But every other year you go around and beg people for their votes.
Okay.
Can we explain
But you care more about your relationship with that guy than you care about the relationship with the people who don't go to work in this building.
Order, you are done. You're done. You're done. Disrespectful.
It's disrespectful example is what you've done to the working people in the city.
I didn't do anything.
You failed to act.
I didn't.
When you're a leader, you failed to act. You said you didn't do anything. You failed to act when you had an opportunity.
Marty, we're staying.
Sorry, I took the calls later. I see them coming in. 451-1069. You can call back. I'll take them now. Good morning.
Good morning again. Like you cut me off just.
No, I didn't. You dropped out and I was waiting for you to call back. But go ahead, get back in.
Anyhow, politics. How long? We can't hide the politics in this country. The Prime Minister is the chief cook, but wash everything. Listen to when the Prime Minister speaks and see if you can't understand the politics coming from him. That's why I said he doesn't want to lose.
Oh boy. I didn't touch anything, eh? You dropped out yourself. I don't know what's happening. All right, we gotta take some messages. Let's see if this is him calling back. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Ding.
Good morning.
Boy, I just don't understand. All other countries shutting their borders, and why can't we? Are we immune to this thing? And then a lot of things. Another thing is that nobody's telling us how to eat. They're telling us, oh, go and get the vitamin C. Can we take vitamin C if we're not eating properly? How are we going to be able to fight against this disease? Where are the nutritionists to educate persons and encourage us how to eat so we can able to build our body to fight against this disease? And this thing with the school, oh my God, CPEA will not be able to host based on how this thing is going. I can't see it possible that it will happen right now. Honestly, you enjoy it and keep on spreading the news and telling persons to do good things.
Thank you. Let's take a final one this time. Good morning, quickly.
Good morning, Ben. How are you doing?
I'm all right. Good morning.
Yes, you're still the most obnoxious person, but I got to give credit where credit is due. Right? You are the only host in St. Vincent that comes out and tells us like it is. And I really, really enjoyed this morning's program. This is why I decided to call you. This is Joshua.
Hey, Joshua from Bermuda. Good morning, Joshua. We haven't heard you for a while. And your baby doll is here.
I still listen to you, but I just listen. But I had to call you this morning because you're still obnoxious, but you are right now the only one who calls everyone out. And we cannot afford to continue with this reckless behavior. And it goes right across the board. Presently, the only person that I have some respect for is Dr. Friday.
Okay.
But keep on speaking out, Ben.
All right, thank you.
I know you're not going to change, but keep on doing what you're doing right now.
All right, thank you, buddy. Thank you. Let's get this one in quickly before we go to what's trending.
Convinced that if this government were to implement some of the measures that we are speaking about in terms of closing down borders and closing down certain work and preventing mass gatherings and so forth, that they would not be able to pay salaries. This government is completely broke. Bing, look at what is going on. Just to have an isolation center for this coronavirus, the government has to go into an NIS money to be able to get something done. $750,000. Being this government cannot do like other countries, like St. Lucia, Grenada, and the likes. Hence, this the reason the kind of carefree approach that they are taking.
And now we've got coming your way, Watch Trending, your entertainment news right here on OMG in the Morning, brought to you by Fanfare Events.
.1069 Boom. Evolve. The trends, hype, and stories burning up social media and entertainment.
Let's go.
All right, so Corona is trending worldwide, and they just can't seem to keep down the violence and entertainment as dancehall artist Tommy Lee's daughter,
Yeah, sad.
got shot.
When did that happen?
Yesterday. Yeah, she's alive, but she's not in the best of conditions. However, his nephew is dead.
Yeah,
they
took it out on his nephew. Yeah. So his nephew is dead, and as a result of that, the clapback shooting killed the suspect that was set to shoot his nephew and daughter.
What's that? What's clapback?
Yeah, well, I mean...
retaliate?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So why the hell you don't just say retaliate? What the hell is clapback?
Come on, no, man.
Chris, it's me and you. Yeah, it's you and I. You and I. We too old for this. You and I. We too old for this, Chris.
Get with it, man.
I've never heard it before, but
you picked it up. Well, I kind of had an idea, but I'm going to have to speak for the...
So,
I'm not the only 1,000-year-old person in the country, okay?
No, it has nothing to do that. You're just a little slow.
All right, okay, good.
So it's alleged that the suspect that did the shooting that wounded Tommy Lee Sparta's daughter and took the life of his nephew, who's referred to as Eggman. So Flex, don't call me no Eggman.
Flex, you call him Eggman?
Yeah, boy. Don't call me no Eggman, Flex.
I have to ask him
you
why.
You call him
There
Eggman?
must be a reason.
What's that?
I don't understand that.
Eggman.
I keep asking him. He don't
Should you call him that from now on? Should you give him that name?
What?
That's your name, Eggman.
The suspect that is referred to as Eggman was shot and killed in Flanker yesterday morning. Boy.
Really sad.
So really, we seeing this too much. I mean, Sicka Rhymes was supposed to be one of the next biggest dancehall things. Sicka Rhymes got shot as well too. You know these guys just dying before they actually flourish.
I would have thought that with this coronavirus thing, because that people would be afraid to handle guns. Because the virus lives on metal, and you would have thought that people would be boy, I ain't touching that gun because I might catch corona. Like Jesus, like people don't care. Well, I think they should make bullets more expensive. Carry up the price of bullets.
So people carry it up. It's flooded.
No, carry it up.
No, somebody else that what the money will just sell it for the same price it was.
But I'm saying, right, if you carry the price of bullet up, people will be like, okay, you ain't worth my bullet.
Bad man. If it is entertainers can come together to stand with a base figure for performances, you think people that have bullets in abundance on the black market gonna stand together? They just want the instant cash, brother. Come on, let's be real.
Okay.
You know, something sound nice seeing over the radio, but the reality of it just a little different.
I just thought. I'm just coming up with something. What is your solution, Eggman?
Oh boy, not me, boy. Don't call me Eggman. Flex. Flex is boy, Flex boy.
Never
Flex,
told
not
us
Chris.
that.
Flex,
Yeah, boy, Flex. Stop calling me that now, boy, Flex boy. So Cardi B accuses celebs of getting paid for saying they have the coronavirus, and apparently she wants in on the deal too.
What?
I told you the new trend is celebrities and different people, public figures testing for it.
Maybe they think that the message will get over faster to the younger generation if they see their stars coming out and giving.
But who's paying them?
The DIY study and
World Health Organization. I don't know.
People just being responsible and stepping out.
Irresponsible.
I'm just saying. I don't know. But if you've got a lot of people, a lot of stars trending, saying, "Listen, I've got this. Remember to wash your hands, keep distance, social distances, and it might come better coming in from a Ralph Gonsalves or a Major Leacock who not doing it. I'm saying, who not keeping social distance. I'm just saying. Hey, what do you think?
Man, don't have that now.
Nah, can't.
Post Malone is recording quarantine album after producer tested positive for coronavirus.
Post Malone?
Who's that?
Please.
You want me to play a Post Malone for you?
Please, I don't know that. I really don't
Not just me. Chris don't know either.
What?
Chris knows.
I'm sure I will know the song, but I don't know.
Chris no Post Malone, man.
I'm sure. Well, let's hear. I don't know.
He is.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Post Malone is the man, boy.
Dancehall? Yeah. It's only in soca. I would have known that. Oh. What am I supposed to name? It's a nice song. How am I supposed to name? Y'all don't call the artist name. Y'all don't call the artist name. Right. I'm sure a lot of you viewers, did you know that was Post Malone? I didn't. Who the hell? Yes. What is a Post Malone?
Come on.
What is a Post?
I'm saying.
What is a biggie?
A bad man.
Ludacris donates 200,000 to the relief for Bahamas COVID-19 crisis.
Little who?
Ludacris.
Oh. Okay.
So you see, I tell you, the stars are just coming together and doing their thing. And very irresponsible, as we know him to be all the time. Elephant man who drives his tank on E. Did a next thing. Apparently his brain went on E for a little bit.
Yeah.
He lied to the immigration about COVID-19.
Yeah.
And now he's facing some jail time because he went to Germany and didn't tell nobody nothing.
He was supposed to admit it on his immigration form. Like, he's saying that he did not come directly from Germany. He was in Europe. You think he's got a point?
What? You think he has a point?
Yes.
Bing.
His flight may have originated from Germany, but he did not leave Germany. That's something up for discussion, Eggman. We'll talk about that.
Who's Eggman there?
Who answered?
Big.
Put the camera on Eggman.
Boy, oh gosh, boy. Hey, Chris, you're not supposed to listen, big boy. We better than that, brother. You're walking here.
Yeah. Chris just walking. I don't want to get corona.
So, we're seeing the continuation of the quarantine concerts and whatnot. I see a lot of local artists, Chiwali. See Rodney Small as well, say that he's going to be doing some studio jam sessions so that, he gets that across social media.
Yeah, but we not. What are you doing that for? What are you doing that for? Why? What's the purpose of doing that? Huh?
No, I understand that, but how is he doing this?
Like to record
with other people?
No.
I
don't know how much people will be in the studio.
But we don't need. They don't need to do it. If we have a show, we'll go because St. Vincent, we are shattering blood. We on the security council, nothing ain't gonna happen. We jamming still. You only do these things if you're locked down, but we're not locked down. Children going school, prep school, go prep school now. You go see children up there and CW.
Why are you behaving so?
But it's true.
Are you behaving so?
Rodney is one stupid red man.
Leave him alone.
And cupboard.
But why are you doing that? What are you doing that for? What is he doing that for? We're not locked down. We're not locked down.
And
I guess they're assuming that if that happens, they will have material.
Before
you know what assume means if you turn it backward?
Hello.
Turn it backward and see. Rodney is that. That's what Baby Doll. I hope you Rodney, red man, you hear what Baby Doll say?
At least we are being responsible. So the one mic movement as well. We are looking into what's happening with Corona as well. And we are taking precautions.
What are the precautions you're taking?
I'm with you.
We might just do some quarantine editions as well.
But we're not quarantined.
I mean, there are different ways. There's different calls that goes live on social media and whatnot. So I'd rather be in front of the person.
Okay. Take us out.
So we're gonna figure it out, and we're gonna make sure that you get the entertainment that we bring to you without creating a mass gathering.
Take it out, Baby Doll. Thanks to the Eggman.
And that's where we wrap it up today for What's Trending, and it's brought to you as always by the Compliments.
And who's up next?
Fair events, and coming up shortly, it's my friend
the hammer,
Jerry George,
the soft hammer.
1069 Boom. Bass. Jerry George on Boom 106.
Jerry.
I really tell Jerry.
That's who you should have the camera facing.
Jerry.
The Eggman.
Jerry, you hear what they're calling you? I hope you're hearing one. I defend the Jerry.
Jerry. Jerry, they say you saw the future, Jerry, because they say you do your show.
Oh, yeah.
And when you do your show, you're already quarantined.
With the cock crowing in the background.
I was abused this morning because I had some issues, so I didn't get it done. So I get people ask, what happened? The equipment don't stand up in the morning or what?
You heard what Jerry said?
This is Jerry.
Jerry, did you just say your equipment don't stand up in the morning?
I said that is the abuse I got this morning. Hey, what happened
I think I should leave the room. Let you guys have
the board is back.
I have the most space.
Children are at home.
People all over the place. What a home way. My equipment didn't start this morning. I didn't do a show this morning. What's wrong with that? But I mean, I said, oh, wait, these people are easy, you know?
Coming from the man who's got the cock in the background. Over to you, buddy. I'm not saying anything.
Listen, folks, I mean, we gotta keep it light because we're in some tough times. I mean, and we're in some times that, boy, you just don't know what is next. I just saw the data on Spain, 33,000 people affected. They took over an ice skating rink to put bodies. I mean, this is scary stuff, eh? And we had better not think that we are in any way immune to all of this happening. In fact, a lot of things that I see happening worry me. And the biggest worry for me comes from within the Ministry of Health itself, because I'm getting double messages. And that is certainly not what you want at this point in time. What do I mean? So I see even Kenton spoke to it this morning. Everywhere else in the world is speaking of this issue of social distancing. Yet the Prime Minister had a public event yesterday. The Minister of Health on his page yesterday was boasting that he sent a message, a COVID message, that was read in over 100 churches across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The same time when we should be talking social distancing, and everywhere else is doing it. At the same time that he was in church, with his message and having the congregation close up and all the rest of it, the chief medical officer, who is the technical person who should be listened to, is on radio saying that we need to not do this. It's confusing. In fact, I'll tell you this. I saw a comment on the page of the sister of the minister complaining about the funeral in Bible on the weekend, and complaining about the fact that people are not using social distancing, you know.
I saw that.
That's Dr. Keiser Brown?
No, not the doctor.
The sister of the Ministry of Health.
Yes,
Dr. Caesar. Dr. Caesar.
So you ask yourself, hold on. This is not making any sense, because if you could have that level of duplicity taking place there, how is the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines going to know what is right and what songs mean what? It's crazy. Other places have taken action swiftly and decisively. We're still waffling. Because when for example, last week, I understand in the ministry there was all these meetings taking place. When businesses were telling, everywhere else was saying to businesses, listen, rotate your staff. Don't make there be a lot of people in the business and that kind of stuff. But we waffling. Do you realize that the Prime Minister of this country is the only Prime Minister in this region who has not addressed the nation on this issue?
In the wall, Jerry.
Me talk about women now. But I agree with you, in the world. Because, so I am saying to myself, this is making no sense. And yesterday the event was held in the Grenadines. The place, one of the places where we can least give support to. But I suspect a campaign opportunity is more important than the health of the people. That is what this has come down to, you know. A campaign opportunity is more important than the health of the people. We have not really put anything in place for the Grenadines, you know. I said this about a week ago. What have we done for the Grenadines? I haven't heard a specific approach taken to what is happening in the Grenadines. But we're going to have a public meeting in the Grenadines. I mean, no, man. I'm putting it this way. I'm saying it is clear that Prime Minister Gonsalves knows something that the rest of the nation and the world doesn't know. Because he has been operating as this thing is not a big thing indeed. That it's life as usual. You might every now and again hear a few mentions to think, but the nation of St. Vincent and the Grenadines have never been spoken to as a nation by Prime Minister Gonsalves. Look at St. Lucia. Yesterday I got a note yesterday afternoon. St. Lucia has declared a state of emergency. Are these people overreacting? I see the minister, the leader of the opposition now calling for our borders to be closed. Well, I can tell he ain't getting closed now. If he didn't say so, it might get closed. But now that he says so, for sure it ain't getting closed. This is the level. I mean, this is what people call leadership? For real? Well, if this is what leadership looks like, crap of smoke with pipe, I could tell you that one day. Because something is not making any sense. It is not making sense that the rest of the world is giving instructions and going in a particular direction. But St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, get up every morning and not sure what the next direction is. They have to pick up their cues from other countries and other nations. But the people who have been elected to lead us have not spoken in a clear, distinct manner on this issue. No. I don't get it, but maybe I've lost the plot. Maybe I've lost the plot somewhere here. Yeah, guys?
Jerry, outside of, the government speaking to us and the Prime Minister making an official address, do you think that we as Vincentians are taking the necessary precautions? Do you think that we are practicing what we should be practicing to ensure our safety?
But you see, that's the point, Daniel. We live in countries where the people who matter, who says something, and sometimes we're journalists are the ones who must be blamed for this, The only time something gets reported is if Minister so-and-so say, the Prime Minister say, no matter who else says, and how right they are, nobody pays attention, So when you live in a country where the Prime Minister has not taken this matter seriously enough, the risk is that the rest of the population, especially supporters, will say, well, you're not so bad at all because you're not saying nothing about that. That's where we are. And that is why in these small countries and these small democracies, it is so important for the leaders to take the lead. Because people hang on their words. People listen to what they say. As I say, if you listen to any newscast almost across the region, is Minister so say, Prime Minister say, this body in authority say. We don't pay sufficient attention to even the regular experts who say stuff, because it only matters if the Prime Minister says it, if Minister so-and-so says it. We have developed that as a norm, a cultural norm, and therefore, in this current situation, that cultural norm had better be seen to work. It's not working in St. Vincent, but there are people who are scared. I speak to people all the time. As I say this morning, I didn't shop and people are like, where are you? Because people feel that they need to know what is happening. People want to know. They want to know. And they need some direction. But as I pointed out to you, people the average person does not understand the role, authority, and power of the chief medical officer, let us say. But let me say it here. The chief medical officer in any country, and if you have been following this, every time this matter has come to a country, the person out front speaking is the chief medical officer. The chief medical officer in the Ministry of Health is the person who has been assumed to have the best training in the health issue and can give direction to the ministry. That's the role of the chief medical officer. That person's responsibility is to look out for the health interest of the country. And they have been trained and they've been given that job because it is assumed that that person has the best training, has the best experience to guide the country. What we see happening in St. Vincent, the chief medical officer has to go on radio on a specific radio station and kind of say something that should be a direct statement, make it sound like there's some kind of option to it. And in a sense, I don't completely blame her, because it is very obvious that she is being overshadowed by the Minister of Health, who thinks that it's his role to go to a church and send out messages to a church because he's the minister. And if you ever have heard me here on this program, time and time again, I've said this to you, that the Ministry of Health is being overshadowed. The people in the Ministry of Health is being overshadowed by the minister. But I don't blame the minister, I blame the permanent secretary, who has allowed it to happen. That is where the problem lies. And if anything really, really goes wrong in this country, history will come back to condemn us. Because we have allowed this. You can't have two different sets of messages. You can't. It's either you're going to say, this is what it is, and the trouble why people are confused is because the majority of people follow the media either on Facebook or television or where, and they are watching what every other country has done. So the average person feels like, wait, no, like dog better than we, like we ain't important to them people there. Because if everybody else is shutting down the country, if everybody else is shutting borders, if everybody else seems to be looking out for the interests of the citizens, and St. Vincent is not doing the same, that we ain't important.
I just feel, Jerry, that we sending mixed messages, confused messages, and the average person, as you say, are really confused. Yesterday, we had the Prime Minister at an opening ceremony And I don't see the reason why this opening ceremony had to come yesterday. I don't know what was the purpose. Maybe they have another one coming tomorrow and they have to get all them done. But why the need to have these official big ceremonies?
It's a campaign opportunity.
And in that ceremony, the Prime Minister talking about 14 percentage votes here and this here and all that, and speaking as well about social distances. And I'm looking at the audience when the camera turned around. I'm like, what the hell? What is he talking about? And nobody ain't going to get up and say, well, how could you be saying this? But look at all of us here. You brought us here. He brought everybody here together and telling everybody to practice social distance. What kind of...
Nemo was there. The head of Nemo was also a part of that gathering. I am saying that we are not serious about the job we do. That is why I say...
So do as I say, but don't do as I do. I'm the Prime Minister. I'm telling you what to do, but don't do what I do. What kind of stupidness is that?
It's clear. Right? And I am saying that, look at Britain. Britain had taken this approach at first of what they call herd immunity. The whole concept was that if sufficient people got it, that it would have somehow kind of balanced itself out. In fact, I read an article this morning where in the US, they're going back to 1918, and something they used back in 1918, it might sound crude, but what they did then is that they took blood from people who had the disease and injected it into people who were struggling, and it worked. And they say, as crude as it might seem, that is where America says it's going to go. It's going to take plasma from people who have had it because the antibodies are already there and see if that helps. Sometimes we throw an old thing, but
Jerry,
what they're going back.
I am convinced of two things. Well, I'm mixed over these things. It's either this government are really, really genuine ignorant about the handling of the situation, or is it that they really know, but they're trying to trick we? Because I don't get it. I don't get it, Jerry. How could we get this thing so wrong?
I don't get it either, my friend. And that's the point.
One of the qualities of a good leader, you have to send clear and concise message. You can't be saying school closed but school open. You can't be saying practice good social distance, but you're bringing everybody together to have a big thing.
Sometimes I do not.
On that tent.
I do not blame.
It is just confusing.
But I don't blame the Prime Minister alone. Look, when the Prime Minister had a meeting with the principal, how all them were applauding him. And these principals would have seen, because if these people are the principals of the schools of this country, they let us down. Because they should know what is being practiced out there. But they applauded the issues that, listen. So we must get work at one time. So you take your pick.
I have a question. Go over to you, Dana. You don't have nothing.
Yeah, I have a question, Jerry. I'm hearing a lot of, I would refer to them as rumors until I'm able to get some clarity, coming out of Mustique. Do you have any information on what's happening on the island?
I don't think anybody has any information, but that's all the rumors too. And again, as long as we continue to operate this way, right, where the leadership of the country has not come straight to the country, lots of rumors. And the same people who complain about rumors are the same ones who want to talk about putting people in jail over panic. If you give information, then people will have information. If you don't, you leave the environment ripe for rumors. I don't know what is happening there, but I said to you just now, we have not said anything clearly about the strategy for the Grenadines. We have how many airports? We have 4 airports in the Grenadines, right? It's 4?
Kind of Mustique, Cuban Island. 4.
Yes, 4, right? And people, traffic comes to and fro those airports. What's the strategy? I spoke to some people, even they're telling me, immigration, but we don't know. They themselves are feeling uncomfortable because people are just walking up to them. Thankfully, many of them are behind glasses, but they have to handle the passports and stuff. You understand? So this is the only country that I know of who has not spoken definitively to this issue. And it leaves me to wonder why. Is it because we're in election year and the Prime Minister does not want to make a mistake? So the best way not to make a mistake is to keep quiet? I don't know. But it makes no sense because our people are lacking direction. And as the Bible says, if this trumpet doesn't give a distinct call, people won't know whether they should fall in or fall out. We haven't had that distinct call from the leadership of this country. People have been following what other countries have been doing. And I have to applaud countries like Trinidad and Tobago, where they have been very, very frequent with their messaging.
Every day.
The Prime Minister,
Barbados as well, too.
Exactly, the Minister of Health, the Minister of Security, and the Chief Medical Officer are there to answer questions. Every day, broadcast like, what are we doing? St. Lucia. You know, much people from Fancy and Oregon, them thing who just catch boat and go St. Lucia to do this, to every day to do business and stuff. St. Lucia has declared a state of emergency. St. Vincent still sit down here and wondering, are we really going on?
We don't show.
That's it. I like that. We don't show.
Jerry, this is like 1979, when this super blow. Stay calm. Don't panic.
Don't panic. But you're heading to Barbados.
I come down to tongue to say I'm not coming down to tongue, Jerry.
You know, one of the things that really gets me here is that Prime Minister Gonzalez has left an instance and the Ghanaians to get involved in the Guyana affair. Some time to go and do that. But have no time to speak to the nation that elected him to that office to tell us. I mean, if he wants to come and say, listen, folks, then people making too much noise and all, they don't worry about it. We got things. So, say so. But on the other hand, if he wants to tell us we need to pay attention, also say so. Whichever way, he needs to make a clear, distinct statement. Have a good day, ladies.
Straight up.
Yep.
Straight up. You have to say it to man. Straight up.
Straight up.
Straight up.
106.9 Boom. Man Bing, Daniil and DJ Diego.
Good evening. The government has published a detailed plan for what would happen in the event of a widespread outbreak of coronavirus.
We follow the 4-stage strategy.
What's that?
In stage 1, we say nothing is going to happen. Stage 2, we say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it. In stage 3, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do. Stage 4, we say maybe there was something we could have done, but it's too late now.
They're gonna hate me.
Take this cord.
They're gonna hate me.
You have some messages to read?
Let's do that.
I'm eager.
Yeah, let's go. Bring it on.
No, from you.
Me.
I want those messages.
Bless my heart. Why would you do that?
You know the ones I'm talking about.
Those ones. Okay, let me read these ones.
Yes, please. Those are the ones that I'm interested in.
Yeah. You troublesome, you make people
what
feel that I'm the bad.
What you talking about?
Here's a message I'm reading. I don't think the Vincentian people and the government are serious about this virus. They're still having church, funerals, weddings, bars, restaurants. The government has to make a serious pronouncement asking people to stay home when possible. Do not gather in groups. Bro, this thing is deadly. America and my city, New York, is a different world right now. It started with one case in most places. Now there are thousands. We don't know how much cases we have because we're not doing mass testing in SVG. That's one.
The government has published a detailed plan for what would happen in the event of a widespread outbreak of coronavirus.
We follow the 4-stage strategy.
What's that?
In stage 1, we say nothing is going to happen. Stage 2, we say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it. In stage 3, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do. Stage 4, we say maybe there was something we could have done, but it's too late now.
I know the message. There's a message you want me to read. I'm going to read it. All right. Hold on. Let's see.
Guys,
it's someone from.
Can you please remember not to call the WhatsApp on the WhatsApp number, please? If you want to call in, the number is 451-1069. Okay, Ben, go ahead.
All right. This is from a healthcare professional in SVG. Person saying, up until yesterday morning, people were swabbed for corona. Symptomatic. Vincentians, symptomatic. They have sick people in the community. They aren't saying it. And then they want people to send their kids out. Do they understand the magnitude of how contagious this status of virus is? they have people with corona-like symptoms. They should be notified the public on how many tests have been done up to this morning. This person was tested yesterday. This is the one with in the thing that they was, you know what I'm saying? You know, I don't know if they explain to them.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The person who is that with the video that went viral yesterday, saying this person who was tested yesterday was not the same person on the news last night. It's an isolation bubble bag. This person had symptoms, fever, cough, etc. Was swabbed for coronavirus. The patient was told 48-hour results will be in. They didn't get it. So, okay, that comes ahead of the needs and safety of the people. I'm reading because the messages came different times when we were speaking about different things, all right? This is from a healthcare provider. Shut the borders on anyone coming from the US, Canada, UK, Italy, China, etc. They all have high numbers. Do not allow them in. We have cases in SPJ, but we're not testing. As from a healthcare professional.
You know, yesterday you mentioned that Olympics was cancelled, and then I was reading a story on it and realized that Olympics was scheduled for July 24th to August.
This year.
And I'm thinking, how are we still planning for Carnival? St.
Because
Lucia,
with the Security Council, Dan,
I read
you don't
as well
get
that
it?
St. Lucia is called off their Carnival. And
St. Lucia and Jamaica postponed.
We are on the Security Council. That's why. Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, thing. You say the ULP supporters are ignorant. I wouldn't say that. I would say they dotish because ignorance is a lack of information. Everybody in St. Vincent have a smartphone and we see what's going on. And the approach St. Vincent have right now is the same approach Italy had not too long ago. That they were lackadaisical. And you see that message you played with them 3 man saying, but when we have an issue, we pretend nothing happens. That is what happened in Italy. And the process there is why Italy is where it at right now. And we in St. Vincent, only thing I could say St. Vincent are going through, we potentially have the heat of the environment that they say might contain the virus. But we can't depend on that. And we hear there and everywhere, the chief medical officer saying, practice social distancing, then you had the PM going down Grenadines and have socializing events. And people are looking for leadership. And it's unfortunate that the Prime Minister is the only source of leadership people seem to gravitate towards. You have a medical profession who practice in the medical field saying one thing, but you have the Prime Minister who is a lawyer doing something else. But people who are dotish, I ain't going to say ignorant, dotish, going to follow the Prime Minister when they know better. If me see a burning house and me see and Bing tell me go in another house there, you have $1 million and the house on into the ground. You go against my common sense and go in the house? $3 million?
Thank you, caller. Thank you. 4511069. There's a message that just came in, Dan. Somebody said maybe SVG should host the Olympics because we seem to have. I'm just reading the message. Person said maybe SVG should host the Olympics because we good here. We good here. Your mic. Yeah, we good here. So that's a good idea.
Okay.
We've got. I don't know why we don't just take over the Director Generalship of the World Health Organization. We have the solution to St. Vincent. Whatever we're doing in St. Vincent, WHO need to know. We need to, in the interest of the rest of the world.
I think we're gonna hear from the Prime Minister soon.
We need to, whatever our solution, whatever formula that we've got, we need to package that and probably sell it to the rest of the world because we've got it. We've got it. Maybe it's, as opposed to say, maybe it's the volcano sun, the Chateau blood, or maybe it's just that because we sit in the UN Security Council. Because we got it. We got it figured out. We got it figured out. Very, very much.
Good evening. The government has published a detailed plan for what would happen in the event of a widespread outbreak of coronavirus.
We follow the 4-stage strategy.
What's that?
In stage one, we say nothing is going to happen. Stage two, we say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it. In stage three, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do. Stage four, we say maybe there was something we could have done, but it's too late now.
Yes.
Reading WhatsApp messages. Somebody says, seems like Vincentians love Ralph more than their own lives. Having said that, I say the numbers that the government's saying that it's one person is incorrect. Somebody says, you have to wonder what the main objective behind social distancing is. Could it be to stop the opposing party from conducting community meetings while sacrificing the church to justify the importance?
Are we taking social distancing seriously? Are we taking this thing seriously enough? How can we say we should practice social distance? Mean 6 or 3 feet apart, 3 or 6 feet apart. Everybody sit down in a tent in Union Island job next to one another for the opening of a satellite warehouse. I don't get that. I don't get that. In the interests of what is happening right now, can the government put off these openings? Or is it that the reason why we are being kept in the dark? Because we have a number of openings to take place and we got to get through them? Because this is the election year, so we got to get through all these things.
Someone else on the WhatsApp says, mixed messages is the order of the day. It's very unfortunate when we are not adhering to the basic medical advice given. We all know SVG medical facilities are not the best, and even in the so-called first world countries, they're struggling to contain the virus. Vincentians, the ball is in your court and can learn lessons from the likes of Italy and Spain. Obey the health warnings.
Has published a detailed plan for what would happen in the event of a widespread outbreak of coronavirus.
We follow the 4-stage strategy. What's that? In stage one, we say nothing is going to happen. Stage two, we say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it. In stage three, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do. Stage four, we say maybe there was something we could have done, but it's too late now.
Another WhatsApp message. Vincentian, stop worrying about closing borders, schools, work, etc. We can hold the government to account for this. Let's do what we have control of. Wash your hands, avoid gatherings, maintain social distancing. Your health is in your own hands.
And I very much agree. But while you may try to take responsibility for your own self, if the other person and other people are not doing that, it can affect you trying to do what is good for you. So everybody needs to get on board for this thing to work. You can't say practice social distances and do all the right things, but you expect to still send your children to school when we should be having all schools closed. You can't say that. But you know what it is? I'm going to stick that it is this.
Good evening. The government has published a detailed plan for what would happen in the event of a widespread outbreak of coronavirus.
We follow the 4-stage strategy. What's that? In stage one, we say nothing is going to happen. Stage two, we say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it. In stage three, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do. Stage four, we say maybe there was something we could have done, but it's too late now.
We have another WhatsApp message where someone sent us a press release coming out of Grenada. I'll read the release. St. George's, March 23rd, 2020. The government of Grenada announces that effective 11:59 p.m., Monday, March 23rd, 2020, no crew member of commercial vessels will be allowed or granted shore leave. Crew members are only allowed ashore for operational reasons after receiving permission from the Port Authority. Persons failing to comply will be subject to a fine or arrest.
Cut off people's utilities this week and made them pay what could have been their last check to us to turn their lights on in the global health pandemic. But you don't care about that. You didn't want to meet.
meeting.
You came up with new rules at the beginning of the meeting, and then you didn't even want to follow the rules that you came up with.
And you took advantage.
This is a banana republic, is what you're turning this place into with your so-called leader. We cut off people's utilities this week and made them pay what could have been their last check to us to turn their lights on in the global health pandemic. But you don't care about that, and you didn't want to meet. But every other year you go around and beg people for their votes.
Can we explain
But you care more about your relationship with that guy than you care about the relationship with the people who don't go to work in this building.
Order, you were done. You're done. You're done.
It's disrespectful is what you've done to the working people in this city.
I didn't do anything.
You failed to act.
I didn't.
When you're a leader, you failed to act. You said you didn't do anything. You failed to act when you had an opportunity.
Party procedures.
I'll read another WhatsApp message. This person sent us a release from the Office of the Prime Minister, and this is from St. Lucia. Airports closed to incoming passengers. The government of St. Lucia announces the closure of St. Lucia's airports to all incoming commercial and private flights effective 11:59 on Monday, 23rd March 2020. All airports will be closed to all incoming passengers until Sunday, April 5th, 2020. Aircraft facilitating departing passengers from St. Lucia will be permitted. Air cargo operations are permitted. This is part of the government's efforts to contain the spread or importation of new cases of COVID-19. The government of St. Lucia has already closed schools, imposed travel restrictions, and scaled back on non-essential services in an effort to contain the disease.
You cut off people's utilities this week and made them pay what could have been their last check to us to turn their lights on in the global health pandemic. But you don't care about that, and you didn't want to meet.
That's the meeting.
You came up with new rules at the beginning of the meeting, and then you didn't even want to follow the rules that you came up with.
And you took advantage.
This is a banana republic, is what you're turning this place into with your so-called leader. We cut off people's utilities this week and made them pay what could have been their last check to us to turn their lights on in the global health pandemic. But you don't care about that, and you didn't want to meet. But every other year you go around and beg people for their votes.
Can we explain
But you care more about your relationship with that guy than you care about the relationship with the people who don't go to work in this building.
Order, you were done. You're done. You're done.
It's disrespectful is what you've done to the working people in this city.
I didn't do anything.
You failed to act.
I didn't.
When you're a leader, you failed to act. You said you didn't do anything. You failed to act when you had an opportunity.
Party procedures.
Another message, early salary payment. The government of the Commonwealth of Dominica has announced that salaries for public officers will be paid tomorrow, March 24th, 2020. Please be guided accordingly. You have any more?
What would happen in the event of a widespread outbreak of coronavirus?
We follow the 4-stage strategy. What's that? In stage 1, we say nothing is going to happen. Stage 2, we say something may be going to happen, but we should do nothing about it. In stage 3, we say that maybe we should do something about it, but there's nothing we can do. Stage 4, we say maybe there was something we could have done, but it's too late now.
We take a final commercial break within this hour, and we go straight to Dr. Richards right here on OMG in the morning. Let's do this and come right back with Dr. Richards.
.1069 Boom. With the doc. And look at things with a wider lens. Pastor Richards on OMG.
Well, you know what we do at this time. We got Dr. Richards. We didn't have him yesterday morning, but he will be with us this morning. I didn't receive a message that he was not going to call, but so I'm taking that he will be with us this morning. I think we've got him on the line. Let's see. Good morning, Dr. Richards.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, Doc.
Hey, what's going on?
I am good. How about you?
I'm doing very well.
I was just explaining that you weren't here with us yesterday morning, but you should be with us this morning. So.
Yeah, I'm here. Yesterday I gave way because you had. Are you hearing me well?
I am hearing you. We're hearing you.
I'm using a different phone and it's falling all over the place and all.
Oh, you can hear. There's a difference in the sound quality.
Yeah. Oh well. Should I hang up or something?
Well, I don't know how it's working for you, but we can hear you.
You can hear me well. All right, good. Well, we'll go ahead and work with this. All right. But I want to comment on what everybody is commenting on, and particularly Danielle said she can't wait to hear from me this morning. I think she said that yesterday. She wanted to hear my take on churches. I'm not sure exactly where she's coming from. So if Danielle is there, Danielle, let me hear exactly where you're coming from. You wanted to hear my take with respect to what? If she's there.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Danielle.
Don't even recall saying that. But I guess I'd like to know what you're doing within your church concerning maintaining and managing persons where social distancing is concerned. I know, for example, remember I'm a Catholic, so I can only speak, from that perspective. Even now they're looking into things in terms of like collection, and they don't really want to have anybody walking around and going and collecting the basket after each person puts in money. Different things like that, just to minimize, person-to-person contact and the number in church at one appointed time.
Very good, very good. That's responsible. I got actually somebody sent me a circular memo or whatever it was from the Ministry of Health, signed off by Dr. Simon Kiesebeach, CMO, with certain recommendations, specifically with respect to social distancing. So I read through that. A large part of it specifically singled out and addressed church, and then there was another section that addressed other gatherings, but there was a specific section directed, for whatever reason, directed towards church. So I paid attention to that. There were recommendations, and they're not. I got the impression that the opening sentences with respect to what the WHO was recommending was basically global matter of social distancing, and so these were not measures that came out of WHO. The specificity of it probably was determined by the CMO and her people. So I'm working from that angle. I'm also working from the angle that they are recommendations and guidelines as opposed to mandates and directives. So I want to make that clear, that these are recommendations and guidelines, and they fit well within the general recommendations of social distancing. As I read through them, again, there was a high degree of specificity as related to churches as opposed to any other entity. Let me explain what I mean. The recommendation for churches covered three things with respect to your corporate gathering, recommending, not mandating, but recommending 25 or less, recommending 10 persons per wedding, 10. So you see the specificity there, 25 or less for church, 10 per wedding, to limit funerals between 10 to 25 persons. That's what I saw. Okay, so let me recap those three things which that were covered. Corporate gatherings of churches, there was a number recommendation in terms of limit. Wedding, there was a number recommended in terms of limit, and for funerals, there was a number recommended for limit. In the second section of the memo letter, whatever you want to call it, related to others, there was I found that remarkable that there was no number limitation except just the generalization, or just you should ensure that there's no overcrowding at your events. In her Sunday pronouncement, whether it was FET or whether it was parties or whatever, just make sure that there is no overcrowding at events. So, you can see the disparity there, the lack of specificity with respect to other events, as opposed to the strict limits that were recommended for churches. But I'm grateful that it was more of a recommendation rather than mandated policy coming out of policy directive coming out of the ministry there. Because this is, as some people might have forgotten, this is a very significant time for churches, the most significant on their yearly calendar, beginning with the Lent, start of Lent, Ash Wednesday, and culminating in Easter Sunday, the resurrection of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, our Good Friday services. So the churches now have very important considerations to make, given this is the this, I don't know if I want to call it holy or whatever your designation is, but we know that Lenten period, that 40-something days of observations and different emphasis every Sunday and meeting time, it's rather important. I cannot begin to stress the level of importance of this, even in terms of corporate gathering, as opposed to you can do things online, etc., etc. That's rather important. So you have to, as church leaders, we have to proceed with caution, bearing in mind, what is recommended, but also acting with a measure of prudence. What we have done at Kingston Baptist Church, now I can't speak for other churches. What we have done at Kingston, in fact, we were ahead of this. We moved, we weren't waiting on a circular, we weren't waiting on a memo to go ahead and act. Felt like we are a responsible church, and there are certain things that we should be doing, whether or not there is anything coming out of the Ministry of Health or the government. We are responsible for our members, not the government, and so we went ahead and took certain measures to accommodate for. I don't like the term social distancing because it is not specific enough. Because what is really needed is safe distancing. Again, there's a nuance there. There's an important nuance between social distancing and safe distancing. I think the first person I heard speak to this matter was Dr. Sanjay Gupta, making the distinction between social isolation, whether the emphasis should be isolate yourself from people, or keep safe distances from people. So our church, the Kingston Baptist Church, has gone along with that from the perspective that the science is saying, for certain reason, this virus is transmitted through, it's a respiratory disease transmitted through contact with the virus, touching hard surfaces, whether it's a door or a desk or a pen or any other surface, and then putting your hand in your face, your nose, your mouth, etc. Also by coughing, although it is not an airborne, although some rumors are out there that have spun out a different narrative. Although it is not airborne, if you cough or sneeze, they're saying it travels a maximum between 3 feet and 6 feet. So we have been following the science. We've been paying attention to the detail. We are a responsible church. We really don't want to move on speculation, act on speculation, and being driven. Again, not by fair paranoia, speculation, gossip, but being driven by what the science is saying. We adopt ahead of time, ahead of any memo, ahead of any circular, we adopted certain measures to protect our people and to comply. For example, we only have one corporate gathering per week, one, and that is on Sunday morning. For a limited time, one corporate gathering, as opposed to like other places that are having multiple engagements and encounters, etc.
And what's the size of that gathering?
And then let me continue. Yeah, what the experience is like coming in for example, let us say Bing decides to come to church, or anybody decides to come to church. One of the things, jumping ahead of this, what we did is removed nearly about half of the seats out of we have a big spacious auditorium, but we went ahead and removed half the seats. So we had a team come in and took those out and stack them. The remaining seats, again, all of this was done ahead of the government saying anything. The remaining seats, we arranged them to meet the requirements of of safe distancing, where, I mean, a guy from the bank came up and looked at it, he said, wow, so much space between the seats. So we made sure that when, you come in and you're seated, you are not jammed closely to each other. I mean, it's worth it to do something like this. The experience of somebody, for example, therefore, coming to our church for that one corporate gathering during this period, they come up in their vehicle or whatever, and you walk in, you don't have to touch doors, you don't have to hold the door and push it or pull it. You don't have to touch any surfaces like that. We don't shake hand our greeting team. You are not shaking any hands. Basically, you walk in as you would walk to any other establishment. You walk in, but you are not touching anything. People are coming in trickles, usually, as would happen at the beginning of a service. They are not coming in en masse. They are coming in trickles. And so they come in and they take their seat, set apart from each other. As you come in, if you may have touched something on the outside, we have hand sanitizers in the lobby area where you can sanitize your hand, and paper towels and stuff that you can wipe down, put it in the waste paper basket. You walk in, you don't shake anybody's hand. You come in, and you just sit and you take your seat. You are there for the duration of the service. We have abandoned our fellowship time where you come around and shake hands or you hug and all that kind of stuff. We make it very clear that is a no-no, that you are not doing that. During the entirety of the service, the main doors remain open, as in swung wide open. People who are going to the bathrooms do not have to touch doors or anything like that. So as you exit the bathroom, the face basin, the wash basins, the sanitizers are there, and the waste paper baskets, and you sanitize before you come out. The main doors remain open during the service. So although there is that it is not an airborne disease that we know of, we still, I think people would prefer to know that the doors are open and there's ventilation and there's a current of wind moving through. Once the service is finished, it's that kind of sanitary kind of service. Once the service is finished, you exit through the 5 different exits of the church. And the last thing I say before people exit is take your time. You exit row by row. You're not touching anybody. You're not shaking hands with anybody. You're not touching doors. Don't crowd yourself at the door. We have 5 different exits. Pick one and go through it, observing safe distances, plus a number of other things we have done. So we have been ahead of receiving that memo. We have been very, very careful to do what we can. In fact, I think, as I spoke to some of our leaders, I said, frankly speaking, I think we are way, way, way ahead of many establishments with respect to making sure that there's safe distancing. And in fact, I told them that our environment at the church is far safer than whether on a daily basis where people go into fast food places in Kingston and grab a dough and put their money on the counter or give their money to somebody and then pass back, and it's all that kind of interaction that you're getting out there in the general society. You are not getting that in the church. So the church is, as far as we are concerned, for the transmission of this thing, the church is basically a low risk environment as compared to just about any other establishment that I can name out there. So I just wanted to let the people know that we were already ahead of this in terms of preparing and making sure. Every week I have a team we're called small groups. Every week I have a team come in on Saturday, make sure that they clean and sanitize and get the facility ready. Everything is in place. So we are doing what we can.
Okay, Pastor. Well, thank you for that information.
Yeah. On another note, I mean, where's my? I don't even know what time it is. I don't know if I have a couple of minutes. Otherwise, no.
4 minutes remaining.
4 minutes remaining. All right. The other matter that I wanted to address is the assessment of our risk here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because I get the sense that people are wanting us to respond, and I hear a thing being played by Bing, do nothing, or then they say it is too late to do something and all of that. So, and then yesterday I heard, a readout of what other Caribbean countries are doing. And then this morning again I heard a readout of what every other Caribbean country is doing. And then I heard a tape being played, you have failed the people, you have done nothing, etc., etc. So I'm in this kind of mood as I listen to all of this, and I am asking myself, people are pushing for a response on what basis? Now, where I have been schooled and the kind of scientific training I received, and people, your response ought to be based on the level of threat or the level of risk. And in the leadership classes that I have taught, which I've taught many leadership classes, the leadership classes that I have taught, it's not a matter of lack of, you have to respond. If you don't respond, you create a vacuum in which people are allowed to make their own responses. But I have been teaching that you should, prior to your response, get a proper risk assessment. Some business leaders use a SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, threat. You use a SWOT analysis. But you have to have a proper risk assessment as relates to any endeavor before you respond. I mean, let me say this again. And I have watched countries all across the world fall into this trap. You respond without the right assessment, and you're basically making it up on the fly, and you are adjusting as you go. Right there in the United States, I'm seeing it every day unfold. Every day it's being made up on the fly. And that's understandable because the thing is unfolding. But there are two courses of action. You could either respond based on a significant risk assessment for your situation, in which case I would ask, what is the risk assessment for St. Vincent? We are assuming it's the same risk assessment as for New York. But what we are seeing, even in the United States, where the epicenter is New York, the risk assessment varies from state to state, which is why all states have not shut down, which is why all states have not declared a state of emergency. I don't think people have realized this, which is why the response is different. For example, they're moving in army beds and all of that in New York, which is why the response in New York is different from the response in Florida. Or I have a lot of friends who I connect with in Texas all the time for obvious reasons. Or the response in Texas, there's a difference. The media floods us primarily with the response in New York, but that is not a homogeneous response in the United States. Again, the response is based on current situation and risk assessment. So what is the current situation here in St. Vincent, and what is the risk assessment? Well, as far as I know, the current situation here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is that you have one case that has been tested and confirmed as positive with the coronavirus. So that is the current situation. I move even across the Caribbean, and I don't have the time to get into all of it, but I note the number of cases. So if I were doing the risk assessment, I do note the number of cases for our region and our place, the number of deaths in our region and our case. In fact, Jerry made a very good point yesterday. Although I question the absolute accuracy, but he might be 90-something% correct. He might be 90-something correct. Jerry, when he said yesterday, his quote was, "Every single case in the Caribbean is an imported case." Now, while he might not be 100% correct on that, he is right within the ballpark in terms of risk assessment. That makes a very significant case. That makes a very, very significant case on which you should base your response. please hear me. Because if our cases, if our incidences here in the Caribbean, to quote Jerry, every single case, but, give some room, majority, 90-something% are imported cases, then you have to ask the attendant question, what is the rate of community spread? You have to ask that question because risk assessment needs to take into account current community spread. Is it spreading? I know some might say, well, you won't know because people are not being tested. But here's a basic, obvious question. People flooding the health centers across the Caribbean or even here in St. Vincent presenting symptoms to be tested? So, in other words, even if you say, well, they're not being tested, but how are people manifesting or showing the presenting symptoms? So those are things that you have to take into account. The other question I ask as I listen to all of the commentary, etc., I ask myself, are people in St. Vincent, I'm talking about the populace, the masses, the working people that we are so concerned about, are they all engaged in a conspiracy to cover up this thing? So that even if they actually do have the presenting symptoms all across St. Vincent, is it that they're refusing to be tested? Or even if you take into account, well, they might be asymptomatic. Well, across the world, the statistics, and this is science, is basically 40% of them, 40 to 50% of them might be asymptomatic. But in other words, not showing symptoms. But what about the people who, the other percentage, people do show symptoms? Where are they? Where are they? Are they engaged in a conspiracy? Are they? What is our risk assessment? But what I'm hearing is base your reaction. Truly, this is what I'm hearing. Base your reaction not on a proper risk assessment of our current Caribbean experience. Base it on a global experience, which basically, when we say global, we mean UK, Italy, Spain, France, and the USA predominantly. That's where we're getting all of our news from. We're not hearing from Brazil, Honduras, Peru, Argentina, even Australia. Last time I checked last week, they hadn't closed school. When people say global, what they mean? UK, Italy, Spain, France, and USA. Let's base it on what they're doing. And so our proposed and course of action is driven by not so much what is the risk assessment for our area, based on our facts, our figures. I don't have the time to read them. In fact, I looked at how many deaths do we have in the Caribbean related to these imported cases. People need to know these things. Those things relate to risk assessment.
Okay,
come on.
Doc, we got to wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this. What do you and all the others want to do? Do you want to do this based on what I'm hearing? This is what Grenada did. Do it. This is what Trinidad did. Do it. This is what Barbados did. Do it. This is what Governor Cuomo doing. Do it.
Can I ask one thing before you go? Doc?
Yeah.
Okay. You're talking about risk assessment, all right? Based on what you're seeing and what you're hearing on the ground, what is your assessment of what should be done?
Can we talk about that tomorrow? Because I'm not even halfway through yet. But again, I'm making a point, my fellow Vincentians, whether or not we want to get caught up and driven by the narratives that are coming out from the hotspots. That's all I mean. And what I am hearing is it's happening in the US, it's happening in Italy, it's happening in Spain, it's happening in France, it's happening. This is what's happening there. And I'm not hearing. Our narrative is not driven by what's happening in the Caribbean, vis-a-vis imported cases and community spread. How come that is not a part of our narrative? Because if that becomes a part of a narrative, our reactions will be different. Let me close with this. I'll have more time tomorrow. I don't know if you know the Desiderata. Go placidly. This is my motto. Go placidly amidst the noise. Being, this Serenity Prayer?
Yes, I do.
Okay, very good. It's something like that you should change. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. My message that I sent out to the nation and to my people yesterday was, we have an anchor that keeps our souls steadfast and sure while the billows roll. Anchored to the rock that cannot move, grounded firm and deep in my Savior's love. I am not going to be driven by the speculation in all of this. I will be moved to act by the science. You all have a good day.
You too, Doc. And I hope you listen. I hope you listen when you get off, because I want to say that Dr. Richards this morning sounds exactly like the government. Mixed messages. Last week, Dr. Richards had a completely different position. This morning, you hear what he's saying. Mixed, confused, more confused than you just don't know, you just don't know, you just don't know. Mixed messages. Stay home. Some going to school. Stay home. Don't do too close. What they call it? Social gatherings. The government bringing on putting off events with social gathering. Mixed, confused as hell. And Dr. Richards this morning talk about risk assessment. What is the risk assessment? You said it. Tests are not being done. How do we know? How does Dr. Richards know what the true case in terms of the numbers in St. Vincent? Do you have inside information that we don't know? Confused, mixed messages. Sorry, Doc, I just had to respond that way. I couldn't help it.
There's a voice note, okay.
People need to look at examples to know also how to assess risk. It's not merely based on your present circumstance, but the examples of what's happening around you, so that you act in a particular way because you do not want St. Vincent or Trinidad or Jamaica to be another Spain or another Italy or another UK.
Yeah.
That was the one you played, the one above?
No, there's more.
There's one above.
Okay. I'm not seeing it. Okay.
But in reply to Pastor about the particular responses and so on, what set of circumstances, what set of conditions are present in St. Vincent that are not present in Grenada or Dominica or Jamaica or Trinidad? Because these islands are similar in a large set of ways, So I don't know, why is it that all around us in countries that are exceedingly similar to us are responding in pretty much the same way. I don't know that in this particular circumstance with this pandemic that our response ought to be different from the responses of other countries, especially Caribbean countries. It ought to be, by and large, the same set of responses,
No. Let us wait until we get the official numbers that say we've got 1,000 cases, and then we will try to respond. How can we be so different? The same reason why we were sold on the idea of the Argyle International Airport, the very same reason. We need to get on board, we need to be on the international track. We need to be connected. Like St. Lucia, like Barbados, like Grenada. As they are connected, what is different about us? It is only recently, this week, and in some cases last week, when the international flights stopped coming to St. Vincent. What is different? Dr. Richards saying the cases in the Caribbean are imported cases. So what? Nobody came to St. Vincent? How do we know? How do we know? I prefer to take the precaution, even though I don't know. Let me respond one more time with this to Dr. Richard. This is for Dr. Richard specifically this morning.
Dear friends, brothers and sisters, my name is Dr. Bajwa. I'm an emergency physician working on the front lines in Canada. I'd like to share with you what's happening on the hospital front, something that most people right now are not seeing, and I hope to God they never see. This virus is spreading so fast in the world because it's such a cunning little virus. Most viruses are either spread quickly, like the flu, or they're serious, like SARS. But this one is both. One of the main reasons why it's spreading like fire is because it starts to spread even before you know you have it. I might be spreading the virus right now.
Before you know you have
and
it.
not even know it until
before you know you have it.
Or the next day. The numbers that you see in the media are not accurate. They show only the people who have been tested that are positive. There are so many more people out there who have it, who are spreading it, and we don't even know about them because they haven't been tested. Canada's doing a pretty good job. We've recently increased our testing in the past few days, but it's going to get a lot worse. The healthcare system, the workers are doing the best we can. I might sound like an alarmist, but I can live with that. In fact, I'll fall over in happiness if I'm wrong. I'm just trying to stress the importance of what public health is trying to tell us. We need to get away from each other. Don't have friends or parents over. Don't go to large gatherings. FaceTime your friends, call them, email them, do whatever you have to do. Just don't go see each other. Don't be in close distance to each other. Don't take your kids to the playground. In fact, why don't you act like you have it? Act like you will get it. That's the way that you'll help yourself from getting it, and that's the way that you'll help stop it from spreading to your family. If you have to go out for groceries, the pharmacy, then wash your hands. Don't touch your face. That's how it gets in. Create some friends and family groups and take turns going to get groceries. Just remember to leave the groceries on the front door and not go in for a hug or a kiss. Your actions today will determine what I'm seeing 2 weeks from now. We can handle many sick patients, but there's a limit. After that, well, I'd rather not say. We can get more ventilator machines, but who's going to run them? We only have a limited number of people, and even some of them are going to get sick. We don't have the time to train new ones, so we've already asked retired doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers to come back from retirement to help us. But even that's not going to be enough. I cannot say it enough. Social distancing, staying home, washing your hands. This is what's going to get us through this tough time, not some magic medicine or vaccine. They are going to happen sometime in the future. If we can all do this together, then this disease will hit us like a small hurricane and pass with some moderate damage. If we don't do this, then a tsunami is coming. We all have to remember that all of humanity is suffering right now. The virus doesn't care what color your skin is, how much money you have. We're all in this together. We'll pull through this together. The worst thing that could happen is that you did it for nothing. But the odds are that's not true. When you show up at my emergency room door, I promise to do what I can for you. In return, will you promise what you can do for me? Just stay home. Please.
You know, I'm really tempted to ask Dr. Richards what impacted his change in position from last week. Last week, Dr. Richards was saying something completely different. Completely different. What happened? What happened? We're out of time, folks. I think we got to wrap it up. I know. We should play this one. Should I play it? Because although Jill is already. Jill, just give us just 2 more seconds. 2 more.
Good morning, all. I hope this message gets to Pastor. I just need a little bit of feedback. I'm listening to him, and I must commend him and the Kingston Baptist Church for the leadership that they have taken in dealing in a responsible manner with this coronavirus crisis. But here in the United States, there are many spiritual leaders, many evangelical leaders, many church leaders who are either dismissing even the existence of the coronavirus, or they are encouraging their members to continue attending church. For example, Rodney Howard Brown, I think he has a church in Florida. He has adamantly refused to shut down his church. I think that there may be a financial motive there, but then you have Paula White, who is asking people to send in money to her so that she can pray for them. And I can go on, but what I want in terms of feedback from Pastor is, what are your views about the perceived irresponsibility or irresponsible manner in which some church leaders are reacting to this coronavirus situation? Thank you. Blessings.
Thank you, and we gotta go. Maybe we can get an answer from that from Pastor tomorrow morning, but we gotta go. All right. So let's wrap it up, guys. Let's wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to wrap up with? Yeah. Dan is speechless. She's shocked. I'm looking at her face over there, and she's like, "Whoa." Why? Why you?
I honestly, no comment.
Okay.
That's where I'm at right now.
All right. Eggman, say goodbye. Are you staying? Me? We'll be back tomorrow morning, God's will. All right, catch you tomorrow morning. Until tomorrow morning. Jill is up next. Catch you there. We love you.
We lighten up the morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. OMG in the morning.